Going into this, I was actually fairly unaware of a lot of Napoleonic history, but what I didn't expect was to suddenly see the great Miles Jupp, aka Archie, from Balamory, pop up in this film. I found that was noted in the history books.
Those in power only see me as a brute, unfit for higher office.
Just like witches at black masses.
But I follow in the footsteps of Alexander the Great and Caesar.
Evil minds that plot destruction.
If you look down, you'll see a surprise. Once you see it, you will always want it.
Sorcerer of death construction.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. On today's video, Ridley Scott reteams with Joaquin Phoenix for a historical epic telling the life and the rise to fame and subsequently the fall from grace of one of the most acclaimed military leaders of all time, Napoleon. Starting with France at the height of its revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte is a young military general who masterminds an integral uprising against the British forces. From this moment on, the course of his life changes forever as he ascends to become leader of the French army and eventually Emperor of France. It always seemed that an epic historical account of the life of Napoleon Bonaparte was overdue, and who better than Ridley Scott to take the helm, someone who knows historical epics like the back of his hand. But then the question comes into play, will we get the classic Ridley Scott, the last we saw of with The Martian, known for classics like Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, or will this be the Ridley Scott that we've had lately, known for films such as The Counselor, Exodus, Gods and Kings, and House of Gucci? Well, sadly, this is not the Ridley Scott that we were hoping it were. But that's not to suggest that Napoleon is a complete misfire, because whilst it does feature Scott's frequent shortcomings as a filmmaker, such as tone and pacing, it also showcases his biggest strengths, particularly the fact that no one else seems to know his way around the battle scene like Ridley Scott does. Napoleon is, first and foremost, a political drama, but there are a number of sprawling action sequences that Ridley Scott directs the heck out of. Filmed mostly practically in wide vistas, Scott transports the audience to the front line of that battlefield and reminds audiences that even at the ripe old age of well over 80 years old, no one can direct action quite like him. He can still dazzle and deliver on spectacle. The Battle of Austerlitz and the Battle of Waterloo were the highlights for me. Just the sheer gigantic scale of filmmaking is something you don't normally see. Unfortunately, for Ridley Scott, it's whenever we aren't galloping on horses, swinging swords, or firing cannons that the film really begins to struggle. I know that there's been a lot of talk about historical inaccuracies and Scott's response towards that. I don't really have an opinion on that per se. That isn't where my issues lie. My issue lies in the script. This script cares more about the feats and accomplishments and the failures of Napoleon rather than who Napoleon was as a person. The man behind the general, the man behind the myth. This is a Cliff Notes version. This is the cinematic equivalent of someone who forgot their history homework and just bullet pointed everything that he did down. This isn't the insightful look into the character of Napoleon like some of the marketing led you to believe. I thought that Joaquin Phoenix gave a very committed performance. Whenever he's on the battlefield, he exudes swift and assured command, but then when home, entertaining guests or courting his wife Josephine, Napoleon was awkward, often a little bumbling, and totally out of his element. This was an element to the character I was fascinated by and wished the movie explored more, but just when things were getting interesting, boom, we're off to another moment in history because Napoleon was there and Napoleon did something and we have to cover it. Vanessa Kirby is somewhat underutilized in a relatively thankless role. There was all the opportunity in the world to present Josephine as this pseudo Lady Macbeth type character, influencing Napoleon in every decision he made and being the puppet controlling the strings. It could have made for a fantastic performance for Kirby, but instead her character arc just goes in circles. She's not as dominant in this film as you would like to think. And then there's the tone. Listen, I have no quarrel for wanting to sprinkle a little bit of humour in, but there are points in this film where it becomes borderline a comedy. I don't know what your aim is here. What is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Don't get me wrong, there are some cracking lines of dialogue, including my personal favourite.
You think you're so great because you have boats!
But otherwise, there are points where Napoleon strays way too far into comedy that it forgets its place. Napoleon has a tremendous opportunity to be a dynamite hit for audiences, but instead, it's all wound up to become a tonally unbalanced, poorly structured, and underwhelming project. Joaquin Phoenix and Ridley Scott are a good pairing, and each of them respectively show off how talented they can be, whilst Vanessa Kirby got the short end of the stick for a character that was short-shrifted. Look, come in with the hope that you got more out of it than I did, but definitely stay for the fantastic action battles. I'm going to give Napoleon a 5 out of 10. Anyway guys, those were my thoughts on Napoleon. Let me know, have you had a chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Now my question to you, I would like to know, who do you think is a prominent historical figure who is overdue for their own biopic? But that is all the time we have for today, so thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.